Welcome back to the ACIM Book Club. This commentary is for Section 5 of Chapter 3 in the complete and annotated edition called Perception versus Knowledge. I'm Alison Anton with the ForgiveNest Podcast for A Course in Miracles. This is the first real discourse Jesus gives us on the subject of knowledge. It's a vast topic in the course, and here he opens it up by making the distinction between perception and knowledge. And he gives us a couple sub-distinctions to make too, between certainty and uncertainty, and degrees of perception versus the realm of knowledge, which has no degrees at all. We also get to look at the way the Course says we get there, which is by seeing our brothers correctly as they truly are. And this is the perfect segue for our frequent reminder for today. The statement is a specific exercise Jesus gives us in this section. So let's start here, and then we'll get to all the rest. So go ahead and close your eyes and repeat in your mind, "Help me see my brother as he really is, and thus release both him and me." Okay, you can open your eyes, and let's go right into our summary. Knowledge is fundamentally different from perception. It is a gift of God that comes through revelation. It yields absolute certainty that is timeless and beyond question. Perception, in contrast, is inherently uncertain. Being time-bound, it constantly changes, asking questions in search of answers. To return to knowledge, I must see my brother as he really is, which will inspire love for him. Only then am I ready to know him again. You must get your perceptions straightened out before you can know anything. In paragraph 2, he starts to lay out a few things for us. Number 1, perception is temporary. It's what we use in time. Number 2, perception is variable. It has degrees that go from misperception all the way to true perception. And 3, even true perception is not certainty, which means it's not knowledge. He says, misperception produces fear, and true perception induces love. Neither produces certainty because all perception varies. That is why it is not knowledge. So from perceiving fear to perceiving love are obvious degrees. It's variable. Perception is something we do with the physical eyes, but it's also something we do with the inner eye, or the spiritual eye, as Jesus calls it. These are all variables or degrees of perception. As we get closer and closer to perceiving love versus fear, the less and less we rely on our physical eyes for seeing. Another thing to note about perception is that it also relies on our interpretation of what we see. We use perception to try to understand all that seems external to us. Jesus will explain in this section that when we recognize nothing is actually external to us, perception is no longer needed, and only knowing it remains. He goes on, true perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth. So when we know truth, we understand it from the inside, literally. But true perception, or to perceive in love, is merely the springboard for knowing. I highlighted that last line in yellow because I think it's one of the most important statements in this section. True perception is the basis for knowledge, meaning it's what gets us to knowledge. What's important for us as course students to know is that we're in that degree phase of perception, or a process phase, or a variability phase. The training of the course is really to help us through the lesser degrees of misperception based in fear and into the higher degrees of true perception based in love. This can be tricky for course students because we think we should bypass that middle part entirely and go from misperception right to revelation or knowledge. But really, we're using the mind training in the course as the springboard to right perception. And then we use right perception as the springboard to knowledge. He then reminds us that even miracles fall under the category of right perception, not knowledge. The miracle is a way of perceiving, not a way of knowing. It is the right answer to a question, but you do not ask questions at all when you know. Questioning delusions is the first step in undoing them. The miracle, or the right answer, corrects them. You know when you have ceased to ask questions. So we really see clearly the process of miracles is to correct the errors that caused the questioning in the first place. This is what we're doing in the course, learning how to correct the errors of misperception and using miracles and forgiveness as our path for accomplishing that. Jesus gives us some examples in the next several paragraphs in how we can confuse the higher faculties of vision with knowledge. But perceiving truth isn't the same as knowing truth. He says, visions are the natural perception of the spiritual eye, but they are still corrections. The spiritual eye is symbolic and therefore not a device for knowing. It is, however, a means of right perception, which brings it into the proper domain of the miracle, but not of revelation. So if our faculties of clairvoyance are heightened, or if we tend toward deep-level visions, we might confuse these with revelation. We might think this is knowledge. But again, we have to recognize that if we perceive anything at all, even if it's something we see with our inner eye versus our physical eyes, if we see it all, it's not knowledge. The last part of this section is truly important for us as well. Jesus brings it back around to that in order to know God, we have to know God's sons, who are our brothers. Through our fear-based misperception, we've forgotten who each other is and have made us into strangers. He says, "It is because you have made him into a stranger that you are afraid of him. But what is he to you? He is your brother. What else do you need to know? But do know that this is not a matter of perception, but a fact. Perceive him correctly so that you can know him." And then we have our practice statement, which Jesus calls the prayer for the miracle, that we clearly need to understand before we can remember God. Jesus, help me see my brother, insert name, as he really is, and thus release both him and me. He continues and ends the final paragraph with, "There are no strangers in God's creation. He recognizes them perfectly. When they do not recognize each other, they do not recognize him," meaning God. So just to paraphrase that, when we don't recognize each other as the holy sons of God, we won't recognize God himself. We're all part of the same creation of God. We're a united mind. Recognizing each other is the first step in this. This is the one purpose of using true perception on this path, to recognize our brothers as they truly are. This and only this is the path to knowledge, according to A Course in Miracles. We start by seeing them with higher and higher degrees of perception. This happens through time as part of the atonement process. Some things to ponder for today. Have you started a regular practice of seeing every person as a holy son of God? Even though your physical eyes still see the body and your memory still holds this person's history, what's it like to also hold the thought that they are the holy son of God? Can you imagine what it would be like if you trained yourself to get better and better at seeing everyone like this? And there's no better time than right now to start practicing. So what I want you to do is call someone to mind right now. Anyone you'd like to practice seeing differently right now. As you bring that person to mind, go ahead and close your eyes. And repeat in your mind, help me see my brother as he really is, and thus release both him and me. And you can open your eyes. Okay, that's it for this week's commentaries, but we'll start again next week with section 6 called The Divided Mind. I'm Alison Anton with the ForgiveNest Podcast for A Course in Miracles. It was great talking to you.